How much RAM do you really need to run macOS? Today we'll start with 8GB of RAM and keep lowering it until we find a breaking point for macOS. That's gonna be fun. These are the system specifications that I'm gonna be using for this video. As we can see, it says here that we have 8GB of RAM. And for this whole video I have also disabled swap so that we are running purely off of RAM. But yeah, 8GB of RAM is pretty standard. Everything works, Finder works, Launchpad works, rest in peace Launchpad by the way. Not much to discuss here, so let's reduce macOS down to 4GB of RAM. As we can see, we are now on RAM of 4GB and macOS is already using above 50%, which I guess is pretty normal in this case. Anyway, let's check out the system. Here we can open Safari. Then let's open up Apple Maps, Terminal, System Settings, and also Chess. And what about photos? Resource usage has gone up a little bit, but macOS is still holding strong. So I opened up a handful of Chrome tabs. It's not even full yet, okay? Even with all these programs open, macOS is running just fine. I then opened up more programs and more Chrome tabs, and now the system is getting a little bit laggy. Then I kept opening Chrome windows until the system could not handle it anymore. I pressed on the new Chrome window shortcut way too many times, so not all of them have opened yet. One of them did manage to open, but it seems like that was the final blow to the system. macOS has frozen. Now the system is just done. But now let's reduce it down to 2GB of RAM. Here we can see it says 2GB of RAM and macOS is already eating up almost all of it. CPU load is also a lot higher as the system is struggling to run. So let's check out the system. Right off the bat it works. We can still browse everything. Opening files is a little bit clunkier than usual. Other than that, I like what I'm seeing. I once again opened up a bunch of Safari tabs. This time macOS is struggling a bit more. Then let's open up Chrome. This one takes a bit longer to load. And yeah, it's quite laggy. On top of all the Safari tabs, we can open very few amount of Google Chrome tabs. At this point, even the activity monitor struggled to open. I could not get it to open. Oh wait. Yeah, this is really painful. Let's open up a Chrome window. Can we squeeze out just one? It seems like the system is frozen. I cannot open activity monitor. And yeah, at this point macOS is also just done and we cannot do anything. But now, what about macOS with 1GB of RAM? Precisely with 1GB of RAM allocated, macOS doesn't even start. I'm not exactly sure why, but it could be because of virtual machine overhead. If I give it 1.5GB of RAM, macOS does start. Although it's really painful and it took like a solid minute just for it to load. The first thing that I noticed straight away is that I can't even do basic tasks like swiping away notifications. It doesn't even work. Okay, and now let's try to open the activity monitor. I hope it's gonna start. It's really jumpy today. I really hope it's gonna start. It struggles to open the activity monitor. Even Finder doesn't work. Once I opened Launchpad, the system failed to even load it. And now macOS is completely frozen. So 1.5GB of RAM is not a very good experience on macOS. But now, how low can we actually go? I set macOS RAM to 1250 MB, which is about 1.31GB of RAM. And then I booted it up. Loading it also took really long. It took a while for the UI elements to even display. Actually, none of them displayed, except for the dock. The desktop doesn't load and we are missing our top menu panel. But surprisingly, at least we have the dock. Not again. I was just moving my mouse around on the dock and the system has frozen just from that. Moral of the story: don't use macOS on low RAM. But okay, I mean, you can't even do that. Check out the same experiment done on Windows 11 and I'll be back.